Hello, and welcome to From a Basement in Tulsa. Thank you guys for listening. I'm here with a good friend. Lots of history here with Drew McKenna. Hello, how are you, dear?
Hey, I'm doing good.
I'm so glad you're here.
I am super happy to be here.
I've talked about you a couple times now, I think. Many times, actually. Because I always talk about how my band started, the Bro Hiram, and I'll talk about our radio interview where you guys were like, what's Bro Hiram even mean? And you thought it was a harem of bros, and which I have that interview, and I'll play it later.
Oh, no.
I haven't listened to it since probably 2009, and since you're a professional, when you sent this interview to me, it has the date April 10th of 2009, so that's a long dang time ago.
Yeah, you've done a lot since then.
Yeah, I think it's my very first radio interview where I actually went to the station and sat down with you and recorded stuff and didn't know what was going on. Probably freaking out, which never stopped ever. I still freak out about everything. But hello. And now I've also talked about your podcast, which I'm so excited. I want everybody ever to start a podcast. Well, that's what I want.
I wouldn't have done it if it hadn't been for you.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you did. I hope it works out. I hope you don't hate it. I hope you don't do it for a month. Like, this is stupid, Jason. Why did I listen to you? Because I've had that said to me a couple times. So it wouldn't be surprising.
No, I've done one so far, and right now I'm taking submissions of original music. So if you own the rights to your music and you want to get exposure, I'll do what I can with my tiny little Podbean podcast. You can go to Facebook and Unrequited Songs.
I also learned how to say that word from you.
And you can check out the first one. It was with the Tulsa band Old Man as my interview.
Old Man. I haven't seen them yet, but I've heard so much. I want to see them. And they've been around for a while, right?
Oh, yeah, like a couple of years, I think. You have to listen to the podcast to find out all that stuff.
Oh, yeah. Well, but their style of music, I think, just I never ran into them with my cheesy songs.
Oh, and, you're not cheesy.
Sometimes.
You're Tulsa's balladeer.
Balladeer.
Yeah.
That's a new word, too.
Yeah.
I like it. I do hear often that I have the voice of an angel.
You do. Well, I've described you as the sweetest voice in Tulsa.
Oh, I like it. I'm into it. It's helped since I quit smoking the cigarettes and switched to the e-cig, which I see you've done.
I do.
I'm more addicted to nicotine now, I think. Do you feel that way?
It certainly seems like I think about it more.
Yeah.
But,
I could go several hours without a cigarette. I mean, I'd need one, but now 3 minutes and like...
I miss the days of, a couple of years ago when it was like, oh, now we can do this everywhere. And nobody had like cracked down on it yet.
Yeah.
And it was just like the old days. It was like Mad Men only with vapor. And now it's like everybody's getting as cranky about it as cigarettes. Come on.
I think it's because now they have e-cigs like mine, wherever it is. Now I'm getting nervous. I'm just kidding. But now they have these crazy e-cigs that will puff out a cloud of smoke. I saw one go from the top tier of Brady to the stage. Like a guy blew out smoke, and I was like, okay, I understand why. If that's in a restaurant and you're trying to eat your McChicken and somebody blows a cloud in your face, I would understand not wanting that. So...
the McRibs made in Oklahoma. We just found that out today.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's good or bad. Well, somebody in Oklahoma's making money then.
They're making something.
Podbean, your podcast.
Yeah.
And Facebook.
It's Unrequited Songs, and you can link to the podcast from the Facebook page. And you can put in podbean.com/unrequited songs. And basically the idea of the podcast is that, I've been in radio in Tulsa for about 8 years. I recently resigned from the last place that I worked so that I could start a production company at home and do this podcast you've been hounding me about. I have 4-year-old twins, so I wanted to spend more time with them. So I'm doing all that stuff now. And the idea is that even though my history with radio was that I got to play a lot of songs that were, unreleased, unheard, brand new stuff. And I had some leeway, in what I played. there were still a lot of songs that I would have to tell an artist, well, I'll play this one, but I can't play that one, even though it's really, really good. So I just I felt unrequited, like I hadn't been able to fulfill that song's destiny. So that's what it's about.
That's awesome. I really appreciate you doing that. And I wanted to get into your history. Man, I'm stuttering. Coffee. It's pretty easy for you to just switch over, right? I mean, obviously you get to stay at home, but you've already done all the editing things in the past. I remember when we went and did that interview that's coming up next after these commercials, after we did that interview, and then you played it, and I was like, how's my song back there? My song wasn't playing when we were talking, and so it was magic.
Right.
Do you enjoy doing that kind of stuff?
I love it.
Isn't it cooler that people just come to your house now? Or your studio, wherever that may be?
Well, I actually, I did get an offer from a good friend of mine that has a studio. So I have a plan for some bigger things that are going to happen. So maybe I can come back some other time and we can talk about that or something. Or
that's pretty sweet.
So I kind of want to turn it into my ultimate goal, I guess, is someday I want to have my own streaming station again.
Yeah.
Or I want to program a Sirius station.
That'd be awesome.
I think that'd be cool.
That'd be really cool.
So right now, I'm just trying to kind of get the word out and get submissions. And, there's a little form on the Facebook page under the notes, and you can print it out, fill it out, scan it in, submit your song via MP3 at unrequitedsongs@gmail.com. And I'll review it. If it's something that I feel like, wow, I wish I could have played that, then you'll get in. It's that simple. If I don't wish that I could have played that one, then I probably won't.
Yeah. I couldn't do stuff like that. I wouldn't be able to say no.
They used to call me the dream killer.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
I'm glad I wasn't a part of that. Because I think the first time I sent a song in to Homegrown, you worked on Homegrown. I hope it's okay to say that.
Yeah, it's fine.
And I think the first time I sent one in, it was a backseat, and Ashley made it happen. I don't even think I sent it in. She was like, hey, we want to play this song. And I was like, yeah.
I don't know.
No, it was Ride the Dream, the first song you guys played.
Yeah, but I played that. I played your stuff on TulsaOriginalMusic.com before I ever even hosted Homegrown. Wow. Because Matt and Ashley were still, Matt Lip and Ashley McManus were still the hosts of Homegrown at that time. And I would just send them the Homegrown song of the week and be like, hey, this is what I put up on the streaming station.
Okay.
And I think you were one of the first.
I think I may have been. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's cool. It's making me feel a little bit old.
You are old.
No. I remember the first time I knew my song Ride the Dream was getting played on Homegrown. I was actually making CDs, so Ride the Dream must have came first. I don't know. My memory is really, really bad, but I remember making CDs, printing them at my parents' house and making everybody tune into the radio because I was about to get played. It may not have been the first time, I guess. The first time Ride the Dream was getting played, I guess.
Right.
So that's a fun memory, just sitting there stamping CDs, stickers on there, and then, holy shit, my song's about to be on the radio. She just said my name. It's still cool every time. So thanks for that. And do you think you have secrets about the radio stations that you can tell? How it works, something that we just wouldn't expect.
Wow.
The reason I'm asking is because Miles had Miles Hammer.
Yeah, I went to high school with him.
Oh, so you definitely know him.
Yeah.
We need secrets on him.
Oh.
But his song is doing really well in other states, getting played all over the radio. I'm just like, man, why isn't Tulsa doing that? Do they not have the ability, or his record label isn't paying Tulsa enough?
That's not how it works. It never worked that way, at least. I was at Z104.5 The Edge for about 6 years, and it was a smaller company. We were owned by Shamrock Communications at the time, and it's since changed hands, and that's, a story for another time. But we had a lot of leeway in the programming that we did. Corporate radio has a very, they have a very specific sort of
way of doing things.
Yeah, they spend a lot of money to test and research music.
Oh, wow.
And so they will go out and they'll take a sample of a certain age of people, a certain gender, and a certain income, and they'll play 10 songs, the first 5 seconds of each song, and they'll say, okay, rate, 1 through 3, number 1 being that you don't really like the song, 2 being that it's okay, or 3 that you really like it, each of these songs.
In 5 seconds? The first 5 seconds?
Right.
Oh my goodness.
So that's why it's important not to have long intros. That's why I always push people, hey, get that song going as quick as you can when you start out.
I never would have thought of that. Almost like my next song, I'm just going to start it singing as high and as loud as I can, and then like redo an intro or something.
Yeah, that's why the long intros, I was like, no, don't do that. Just because it just doesn't test as well, because especially if people don't know your music already, then, and program directors, as they're sitting there, going through stacks and stacks of albums or CDs, or if they're going through, tons of digital files, they're not going to listen to the whole song necessarily.
Yeah.
So it's just, they have a set of guidelines, and songs have to rank within those parameters based on all the research that they spend money on, and that's how they determine their playlists.
That's insane. That's cool to know. This is the kind of secrets I was looking for. I never would have guessed 5 seconds. But at least it's still kind of cool that are they asking normal people, or are they just trying to find their demographic and ask them people?
Some of them, they'll pay research companies to go to a mall with a clipboard, and they'll stop people at the door that look like their demo that they're trying to test for, and they'll say, hey, do you want to make $5? And they'll say, sure. And then they'll take you into a room in the mall, and they'll sit you down, and so they do it with fabric softener too. Like, I actually got pulled aside for fabric softener one time. But they'll pull you in and they'll say, okay, I want you to put these headphones on and listen through. And as it goes through each song, rank it on whatever they rank. And they play a little snippet of the song. And usually, like with oldies or classic hits or something like that, it's all based on familiarity. Most people are going to pick stuff that they are familiar with as what they like. So that's why you get that burnout effect of classic rock music. I'm picturing somebody putting their whole soul and art and like their dreams and everything into this art, and then I'm following it to a booth next to the snuggle guy in the mall. Like, right. Hey, we'd like your opinion on this. That's weird to picture music. Yeah, I mean,
it is a business, a corporation or whatever, but it's just weird to picture it, I guess.
I was lucky enough to be given a really special opportunity to program TulsaOriginalMusic.com. It was one of the first, it was the only local streaming station for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of miles for the 2 or 3 years that we were able to keep it afloat and do it. There just wasn't enough local advertising support for it, or the people selling it couldn't make enough money off of it, so they focused on other things whatever. It just didn't financially ever take hold. But I was given a really good opportunity to actually live the dream of programming the way that I thought was the most artistic, or I still had a set of parameters that I had to stick with. Yeah. And as I was able to pick songs for radio play after I was there for a little longer, I had an even tighter set of parameters that I had to pick from. But being that it's an alternative station, it's a little looser than, say, another kind of station. I don't want to name a whole lot of names, but with TulsaOriginalMusic.com, I got to pick any genre. It didn't matter how hard it was. I mean, there was, once you got into some of the stuff that was, really screamy metalcore, or, stuff like that was just so abrasive that it didn't fit in next to anything I had to make special programs for it and put it in different places.
Yeah.
But I think I learned how to evaluate a song based on being good for what it was, not necessarily just what I liked or just what was going to please the masses
Yeah.
or my boss.
Well, now you don't have a boss.
I'm my boss.
Isn't that great?
Apparently you're my boss because you're the one that's giving me the mandates of you have to do this. A podcast. So.
That was just a drunken request.
And I actually followed through on it.
That was at David Castro's CD release party that you hosted.
Yeah.
Man, that was a fun night. And then I had Dom and Cab. The next day they came over and recorded a podcast. And that's a lot of people apparently loved them. I really enjoyed that podcast.
Mm-hmm.
It's cool hearing, I don't know, just...
I'll tell you who blew me away that night.
Who's that?
Garrett Heck.
Garrett Heck. Very good.
Wow.
I was like, I remember making the joke that David was going to he got me drunk and stuck me playing after two badasses. It still did well. I had fun. But man, that was just such a good show. I'm glad you hosted it. I'm glad you were part of it.
Oh,
did you have fun?
Too. Oh, I did. It was great.
And then we stood out in the cold and talked about podcasts for way too long.
Yeah.
You were probably supposed to be like talking on the mmicrophone and we were... I was freaking out about how cool podcasts are.
It was your set that I was late for, not anybody else's. So.
I think we were, I don't know. I don't remember. That's okay though. Which is a song by Dom. And I asked him what the song was about and he's like, I don't remember. And I was like, that's funny, dude. Good call. Good call. But yeah, I'm so glad you're interested in doing it. And I hope it grows bigger than tom.com, and especially since it's your vision, your freedom, and I think internet is the way of the future.
I know it is.
I mean, it's already here.
I know it is.
I love seeing things move to the internet. We're recording the day after Election Day, and I was thinking hard about yesterday, but why can't we vote on the internet yet? And then when you Google it, a lot of it is the people that are getting the votes don't want you to have that kind of accessibility. Because I was thinking about, I do my taxes on my phone 5 minutes after I get the forms. Like, if I can do that, why wouldn't I be able to just, log in and vote? But then I also realized that I think I made the joke that I didn't want to stand behind somebody in line at some weird church, standing behind somebody who probably had 6 Ebolas. I think that's my most liked comment on Facebook ever. And there were no Ebolas in the church. The church was kind of creepy itself, though. My polling place was a little bit weird. If I would have gone after dark, I probably would have skipped voting. So maybe in the future we'll do it online, which is also cool that you can have all kinds of freedom. Anything you want to do, you can just do it.
Yeah.
And I like that.
And that's the thing that I wish that more artists would sort of grasp onto, because the key to life, and the key to the music business and the key to every kind of business is that you have to be able to visualize what you want and what you want to be doing. And once you can do that, you just make little bitty goals and you just get closer and closer to your goal. And you have to remember that, all of the magic happens when you're reaching the goal, not once you get there. Because then you need a new goal. Yeah. So you're left with sort of an empty feeling. So I'm always kind of like, oh, I don't want to meet that goal because then I don't know what I'm going to do. So I think that people need to embrace the fact that being an artist, whether you're a musician or a painter or a DJ or, whatever you do, it's about doing that action and creating the dream and not just hoping for it to happen, Yes.
I assume that's correct.
Did you put something funny in my vapor thing?
No, I just fogged it out in the whole room.
There's a lot of incense in here.
Just one.
Oh.
It's done. What was I going to say? I don't know. I met a big goal of mine. While we're talking about small goals, I think I met a big goal of mine and then just immediately got distracted by podcasting. And I've also noticed that I say podcast weird because I listen to myself saying it all the time, like editing when I say podcast, like I'm thinking about it right now and I can't say it not weird. But like podcast. It's a weird word, isn't it? And were you involved in radio as the internet was taking off and becoming the thing?
By the time that I started, everybody was already streaming their stations. You know, they had streaming players on their websites. Just since probably 2009, 2010, right in there is when social media just blew up and Facebook blew up beyond just techie kids and nerdy kids, and everybody was on Facebook. Literally, your grandma was on Facebook, and MySpace died, which was actually, I don't know. For me, I feel like that was horrible for musicians. I don't know.
Yeah, I think so.
Do you feel like Reverb Nation has like stepped up to where that was, or?
I don't know. I hate Reverb Nation. My music's on there, but I don't. Maybe I think because when I was trying to use it, they didn't have an app that you could run from your phone and do everything. So it was like, there's no way I'm going to log into my computer to do business.
Gosh,
so
who does that?
So I don't even know how it works. I sometimes I'm on these charts. And I'm like, how? I haven't. Like, then they send me an email saying you have to log in to Reverb Nation to stay on this chart. Yeah. And I'm like, I don't know if I can do that because I have to. But I don't know. I don't like it.
I just remember when I first started, dealing with local music, it was like you could find everybody on MySpace, every project they ever did. It was a really good way of keeping track of the history of everybody because you had all of these different projects that were sort of linked together, and you're like, whoa, I didn't know Zach Malloy did that.
Yeah. And there was no analytics really involved showing you what you want to see. I sponsor most of the podcast posts just because I want your time spent here to be at least seen by some people, valuable enough to spend a few bucks letting Facebook show it to people, which eventually I hope to get away from. I don't know. But that wasn't a thing in MySpace. If MySpace would have kept up, I think maybe they probably would have wanted that money too. But looking back, I'm like, I didn't have to sponsor anything on MySpace. I just posted something and people saw it, and I don't know.
And that's a huge difference too from when it first started, because pretty much you could see whatever was posted, and now this kind of goes into the whole like the change of radio. It kills my soul, but I'm so thankful that somebody has chosen me to do it. But I'm actually the voice of a station that's about to go on the air in Arkansas. It's a brand new station, and they are jockless. Oh. There's no DJs.
Oh, wow.
And so I basically am the shark that is coming after everybody's job. We all kind of have to be. But I feel like more and more radio people are going, saying, you know what? I'm just going to go get my studio set up, and I'm going to produce commercials there. I mean, a lot of the times when you hear DJs on the air, we're not really there anyway. Yeah. I mean, that's probably like a horrible faux pas that I'm telling you that. But I think most people really kind of know that.
Yeah, I think so.
And there's no reason why we can't do it from home. And corporate radio wants to pay us less and less to, basically you're going to get your 6-hour shift done in an hour. So we only have to pay you for an hour. Wow. Well, okay, fine. Then I'm going to do 6 of those a day in my pajamas.
Yes. For as many as you can.
Right.
That's the same as voiceovers. I watched a documentary on voiceovers on Netflix. I don't remember what it's called, but it's something very obviously. I know that voice. That's what it is. And then like all of these famous people, they did their interviews in their home studio where they're doing all of the work. Maybe not for the bigger movies, but for a lot of it. So that's a lot like what you're doing. So maybe that's another venture. You already have the studio. Maybe you can do a sweet movie. But I
don't know about that.
I think radio is for sure on its way to becoming less and less.
Here's
important.
What I know.
Okay.
Live local radio, to some degree, will always be around.
Yes.
It may be one guy running the whole shebang eventually. Okay. It may become something that is supported by the digital sales that company it reaps, okay? Because radio companies, if they're not becoming digital advertisers, digital, content providers, and the source of, digital media, then they're going to have to sell their radio stations, because that's the wave. That's what's going on. Car manufacturers are stopping putting FM receivers in vehicles. That's huge.
That's really big.
Yeah.
Are people getting mad about it, like when they stopped sending analog TV signals?
Radio people, they're going to act not freaked out, but I'll tell you, as somebody, they're freaked out. I mean, It's freaky, because it's like you feel like a dinosaur. But I stood there when I left my corporate radio job, and I said, I'm going to hop on this wave, and I am going to go do this.
I'm glad you're here.
Thanks.
I like listening to radio sometimes, but then just the way the people are acting, like it has never been on your show or even on any of the stations you've heard or you've been on that I know of, because I don't know all of them. There's been a million. However, sometimes some of the personalities they take, and it's mainly on country radio, that I'm thinking of one instance that I was listening in for the new Garth Brooks song last month or whatever. I just could not stand the people, just the way they were acting and just what they were talking about. It's like, we're at a time where we don't have to hear that. We might hear advertising or whatever, but we get to pick exactly what we want to hear when we want to do it. And that's such a cool thing to me. And it's that way with music. And now I listen to a bunch of podcasts, and that's and Netflix is doing the same thing. You do what you take in, you consume whatever you're wanting to do. And I like that. I'm so glad you're here doing that. And I hope it takes off huge, because everybody's going to always want to hear what's going on in their town. Or at least some people are going to want to hear that.
You really connected the pieces together for me, because I knew I had this dream of, being either a Sirius XM DJ or having a satellite station that I programmed, or my own streaming station or something. I knew that I wanted to do that. But then you were like, hey, you should do a podcast, Drew. I was like, maybe he's got a point. And so, yeah, thanks for that.
Yeah, I'm glad I think you should do them all. Just do your podcast. I think Sirius XM is a good way to go too, because it's still a different
I keep
market.
Plugging them. You notice that?
Yeah.
Like, I hope that they hear this.
Yeah. This episode is brought to you by
Sirius XM.
Sirius XM, as long as they pick up Drew's radio show.
That's right.
I hope anything great for you. I'm glad you're doing a podcast, because I'm a fan of them, and I want everybody to do it. But I'm so glad you're doing that. What brought you into radio in the first place? Was it always growing up? You're like, you're recording tapes, and you're like, I want to be that person.
Actually, well, it's funny, because it's one of those dreams that as a little kid was very natural to me. I would record on tape, if you remember tape cassette.
I do.
I would record songs off the radio, and then I would talk like the DJ, and then I would record another song.
Wow.
So I made these tapes, which is basically what I've done for a living for the last almost 10 years. And I would do that, and I guess I kind of forgot about it. And I went to TU. I like to sing and dance, and I always thought that I would be a singer. And so I went to TU to be a musical theater major, and ended up with a degree, and it's a double major, musical theater and anthropology. Yeah.
That's
so
interesting.
Right. So I worked at the Gilcrease for a year after I finished my degree, and that job was up, and I had to go get a master's or a PhD if I wanted to do more museum work. So I went to work for Bank of Oklahoma in the fraud and chargebacks department, and I cried every day.
Oh, wow.
Because I am not a banker, and I hated it. And so I quit that job, and I was sitting there with one of my friends. Her name's Shelby, and I said, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I just want to sing, and I want to perform, and that's all I want to do. And I don't know how I'm going to do it here. And she said, why don't you go to like broadcasting school or something? You'd be really good at radio. And I thought about it and I was like, huh. So the next day I went to American Broadcasting School and I took the tour. And as soon as I walked in the door, I knew that's where I was supposed to be. And I did really well there. And I got placed before I graduated at a little production company and worked there for a while. And then I got the job at The Edge, worked there for a long time, and then went to 103 for a little while. So, you know, and all the while kind of trying to build this voiceover career that, you know, I've been the voice of a gazillion different things, you know. So that's how it happened. It happened through failure of other things.
I hear that's how the only way it ever happens. Let's play. I don't remember how it happened. I think you just called me. Okay. We're like, hey, do you want to come do the homegrown interview? Mm-hmm. And I probably cried after I got off the phone. I don't know. So long ago. But I remember it being exciting. So I'm going to try to play. We're going to listen to it. And this, I got to get past that. This will be the first time I've heard it in at least 5 years. Oh, so wow. I'm already nervous. I'm thinking about the songs that I had back then and thinking about my voice on those songs because it wasn't the same voice I have today. I think I went through a phase of wanting that, like, really, it was like several years. Maybe I just didn't know how to sing any other way, of just wanting that really raspy tone.
Which isn't you.
Which that really... You said you'd call today. And, like, I got good at that, but...
Tom Waits.
Something weird. You'll hear it in a second. And then I remember back then somebody named Kendall said, hey man, you could probably sing way better if you'd quit doing that weird thing. I remember being so offended. Like, why would you say that? This is just how I sing. And then one day, like, I sang and I didn't have that. Like, I learned that I didn't, I'd always sang with that weird rasp thing. And then I found out on accident that I didn't have to sing that way, which, sorry, Kendall, for being a jerk back then. but so now I'm really nervous to hear that in a recording. Well, here it is. This is from April 10th, 2009.
Oh, boy.
Sponsored by Tulsa Community College. Learn more, earn more at Tulsa Community College. Visit tulsacc.edu for more information.
This is Drew with your Z104.5 The Edge and TulsaOriginalMusic.com. Homegrown Heroes
I bet
interview.
You I do too. Oh,
I'm
man.
here with Jason Ferguson and the Bro Harem.
You hear it?
Lights go by. Look away to hide my eyes.
Hey, what's up? I'm Jason, and I play guitar and sing, and write most of the stuff. And then we got Matt here. He's my bass player.
What's up?
And we got Crockett. Yeah, that's his real first name, Crockett. And then we have Ben playing guitar, and Crockett's on the drums. I couldn't ask for anything better. I've been in bands before that were organized. Hey, this person's good at this person's good at this. Never worked out. This way we were friends first.
Oh gosh, I hate my voice.
And, hey, let's play some shows.
And then the bromance began.
You coined that.
Said you'd call today. What made me think it'd be different than
This is so surreal to listen to.
2009.
It just happened. We have our drummer, Crockett. He was thinking about writing a book called The Brocabulary, or Bronunciations, however you want to say it. We just take words that sound cool with the word bro in the front of them and use them.
And I thought that was an appropriate edit for whatever reason.
And the Rohirrim is the army of Rohan of Lord of the Rings. And this happened, and people started calling us that. And it's still there.
So stand with me.
You never do this song anymore.
I do it sometimes.
I have not heard you sing this in forever.
Yes.
You should do that one again.
We played at a bar over this past
Oh
weekend,
no!
and after
Oh
we were done
no!
playing,
This story.
some 60-some-year-old stripper decided to come walking out with her nipples on fire, basically, and wanted us to blow it out and eat the cake.
That's how she told us she liked her music.
Oh no!
have a show tomorrow in a place in Skytube called Club 116. It's just
no.
place for people to gather up and listen to music. It's $5 to get in.
Is it still there?
Alice Moon.
No.
He's a great musician. And it's going to be fun.
Hit him up on MySpace. /Jason Ferguson Music. I'm Drew. This has been your Homegrown Heroes interview with Jason Ferguson and the Bro Harem on Z104.5 The Edge.
Oh, goodness. That place, I think it was open for 2 weeks. I don't think it was open very long. And that was such a horrible show to have been able to...
You got a radio plug for it.
Yeah, like, I don't even think people in Skytube knew that place was there. It was just such a weird... and I had Arliss come from Tahlequah for the show, and we were promised all this money, and then there was just nobody there. Who would you expect? I wouldn't expect anybody to drive all the way to Skytube to see me play. Except for next week, I'm playing it. I'm just kidding. So, I don't know. It was just such a weird, bad show. Man, that brings back a lot of stuff. And I think Matt, at the time, bass player, there may have been some drinking involved, which was all we did, obviously, at the bar with the crazy woman with the boobies. And then he tuned his guitar wrong. And so, the first note of the show was the whole band playing and then some weird random note. And, oh, goodness. What a long time ago.
I know. Well, and I think about, all of the things, I don't know. I feel like all the things that we were able to do, through radio stations, one way or another, I would manage to figure out a way to get my friends on a stage, And I don't know. It was kind of it was a moment in time that we're never going to get back.
Yeah.
It's and I'm glad that I was there with you for it.
Me too. Thanks for having me. I mean, that's just so cool to look back.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're my friend, Drew.
And
actually, I credit you for me playing music again. Do you know this?
No.
Long after the Bro Harem fizzled out. I was in this relationship. I was way more obsessed with trying to get buff instead of playing music, because I've also learned since then that it's very common for me to get some kind of fascination and then just focus all my energy on that. And that's all that happens. And then it was the gym, which is probably why the relationship ended, because
you were always in the gym.
But and now it's a podcast, obviously.
Yeah.
But I hadn't played music in probably a year, and then the relationship came to an abrupt ending. And I think the week after, I got the call. It was a call breakup, which was a long time ago. And so it was the first song I'd wrote in a long time. Immediately after, I wrote Any More. And then I think the next week you called and said, "Hey, do you want to come play a song on Homegrown?" Or on Homegrown. Do you want to come play a song there? And I was
was it Locals at 11?
No, it was Homegrown. It was a Sunday night interview.
Okay.
And I was like, "Yeah, I would like to." I just got this song. And that's probably the best song I've ever written anymore. So far, it's gotten the most success. I think
a good one.
People like it. So and then there I met Dustin Howard. Well, I officially met him. I had met him a few times at his shows, but he met me, I guess.
What was he up there for?
He was there with King Cobra. It was their first show they were promoting.
Wow.
Yeah, and this was a long time ago. It was their first show they were promoting, and he was like, "Hey, dude, your voice sounds okay. You want to come play this show at Marquee?" Which is another dating thing, another
dating ourselves
show of our age. And I was like, "Yeah, I would love to." And I hadn't played a show in a long time. It was weird, but it was awesome. And then I think that was the first time I went to the Hunt Club. Was that night, or one of the first times I went to the Hunt Club. So, I mean, thank you. That call may have changed my life forever. I may have never gotten a podcast.
Oh wow! Wow.
And so yeah,
Well, you're welcome.
Thanks. I hope the same thing happens with you with this podcast. Yeah. You start one, it goes crazy.
Some crazy NBC radio executive is going to sweep me off to New York City so that I can, or Chicago, or wherever their offices are, and take me out of this horrible place so that I can go and be a big satellite radio star somewhere.
I think that would be awesome. Or your station just takes off. I would love that.
I am starting a psychobilly band too.
Oh, really? I remember you were starting a band one time, and I was all excited. I don't know what happened, but maybe this is still the band you were starting.
Well, There were discussions about it, and like it was sort of a deal where everybody else other than me that was involved had other bands, and so it just didn't gel.
I
It
remember.
didn't work out right. Which is cool. I'm cool with all them or whatever. It was just kind of like, you guys really aren't going to play with me now, you know?
Sure, your other 6 bands are more important.
Right. And so, yeah, I'm excited about that project too. Because,
What is rockabilly?
Rockabilly is, well, basically, female rockabilly. My idol is Wanda Jackson.
Okay.
You know, she was sort of like the female Elvis, sort of. She actually dated Elvis. And so she would be a contemporary to him. That would be rockabilly. Now, psychobilly, that's more like the Reverend Horton Heat.
Oh, you said psychobilly?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm an idiot.
And well, I mean, it's all kind of, basically, I want to take, you know, if you can play rockabilly, then I can make it sound like it's on acid.
Oh.
So that's kind of what I want to do. I need musicians who want to be in a psychobilly band, because I really want to be like the front person. I want to be the female John Manson from Billy Joe Winghead. That's really what I want to do. John, I love you. Okay.
I don't think you'll have a problem finding musicians that want to be on acid all the time.
I didn't say be on acid. I don't have those kind of connections. But yeah, I want to do the female fronted version of Billy Joe Winghead. I want to learn how to play theremin.
Yes.
Yeah. So anybody hit me up if you're interested.
I haven't heard you sing, I don't think. This may be new to me.
Oh, well, maybe we should work on something together and then
That would be so
put
fun.
it in the podcast.
I'm into it. We can make something up.
All right.
Just find us that acid.
All right.
Just kidding, Oklahoma. Yeah, where do we go from there? There's nowhere. I'm excited to hear you play music. You're already so involved.
Well, I always felt like when I kind of ended up in a place after Tulsa Original Music and with Homegrown and Locals at 11 and all of that, I was in a position where it was like, I don't know, somebody called me the czar of local music one time. And I was like, the czar? Wow. And it felt like I couldn't do what I wanted to do musically because I had to help everybody else. And my job was to be a facilitator for other people's dreams. And so now that I don't do that anymore, really, I mean, I guess I do with my podcast, but since I'm not doing that for a living, I feel like I can finally go back to my original plan.
Yeah.
You know, and sort of, you know, even if it's just for fun or whatever. Like, I have no false illusions of grandeur, you know. I mean, I'd like to have a really solid, good working band that, you know, got to go play gigs, and, you know, I don't expect to play Madison Square Garden, you know, anytime
Not this
soon.
week.
Right, not tomorrow. So, you know.
I would like to open for Garth Brooks at BLK Center, and then my life would probably be complete. Can you imagine?
Wait a minute, you just opened for One Direction.
I mean, but inside the BLK Center as well.
Oh, inside.
I'll do both.
Oh, yeah.
The band can play outside, and I'll just walk in with my guitar and play inside. Actually, you booked us for the One Direction outside gig. Thank you for that.
Oh, you're welcome.
And the only restroom near was inside BLK Center. So the
God.
security would let us in while they were setting up everything. So we could have just walked in. We'd had to skip the gig, which would have been rude, to say the least. But also, you could see everybody setting up, and I guess somebody was like, we totally saw One Direction in there. And I was freaking out because pre-playing music, I'm in a weird, awkward, stressing out zone, which I wish sometimes it goes away, but a lot of times if I'm like 30 minutes before a gig, I can't eat or I'll die.
That's normal.
And so I'm just any gig. But it was fun that we could have ransacked the place because nobody was in there except for the staff, and that was fun. I don't know where I was going before that. Oh, opening for Garth Brooks. Mm-hmm. I would love to do that, except for, can you imagine how horrible the reaction would be of like 80% of the crowd?
I don't know. I think they'd probably like you. I mean, Garth's pretty diverse. Like,
I'm only talking about Garth because my friend James called me out, and CR called me out about every podcast containing Garth Brooks. And it hasn't been every one, but it's a lot. And he just announced the show, so of course I'm going to talk about it But yes, finally.
And my favorite thing about not working for a radio station right now is that nobody is calling me or Facebooking me asking me for tickets to things. Like, wow.
That's why I had you over today. So
Great
I'm just
feeling.
kidding.
You're like, oh, damn.
I've never been able to ask for tickets. I mean, maybe a couple times, but I feel so weird asking people for things. I'm just weird about that. I was like, if they wanted me to have tickets to the show, they'd offer.
Well, I've become super spoiled now.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I mean, I don't know what I'm going to do.
Right?
I've got to get a radio gig soon.
I don't think I've scored any free tickets from this podcast, but I'm hoping next festival season it happens.
There you go.
That's the plan. This episode is brought to you by every festival within the next 100 miles. So, I'm lost again. Garth Brooks.
There was no plan.
I know, but I had a thought in my head. Goodness. Anyway, we have to transition because I forgot into just a completely different subject.
Okay.
I recently was asked by my girlfriend if I would like to go with her and her brother to see a documentary about corporate controlled media at TU. And I, of course, was like, yes,
Right.
I would love that. Of course. It's a Friday night, whatever, I'll go. So there my old self was watching this documentary of how it kind of happened. Like the first corporate controlling. Did you see that get better or worse while you were in the industry? Specifically, one of the big acts, or one of the big problems was a certain corporation owning every outlet in a town. What are your thoughts?
Well, I mostly worked for music stations, personally.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I did work in the same building with a news station, a very prominent one here in town.
Okay.
And, the problem with the news is that you have one or two, you have Reuters and you have the Associated Press, and they control all the content. They don't, and so that content, that story, the way that the story is released, the way the story gets told, those two versions go out to everybody else that's not breaking the story. So they break a story, everybody, they take it, they, change some words around, they use it as their own story, basically. They rewrite the story. There's not a lot of investigative journalism going on at a local level unless it's about local stuff. And then you're caught in the whole political thing of, 70% of our second quarter budget's going to come from campaign ads. So we can't really, expose these people for what they are because, our livelihood depends on it. So that's kind of the sick cycle. So basically what you end up with is people, taking the safest and the most
popular,
the most worn path.
Yeah.
They're gonna follow the lead of, whoever's bigger ahead of them. They're gonna follow that because it's safe. So that's why why news sucks in America.
I felt kind of conspiracy theorist when I was at the documentary because I didn't learn anything. I was like, oh yeah, I already knew all this stuff. I believed it all, except for some of the details of some of the a reporter broke the Nike paying 4 cents a year to Vietnamese employees,
right.
and then when she went back to research that, and when she came back, her company, I think it was, I don't know, doesn't matter. Her news station was sponsoring the Olympics, so they couldn't do her story anymore because they needed Nike to pay them. And I was like, holy cow.
Yeah, that's how it works. It's worked like that for a long, long time.
I think we're finding that out, at least.
Yeah, and to me, that's not so surprising. I may never be able to get a job in radio again after this podcast.
Well, we're talking about TV, so it's okay.
Yeah, well. The problem is that so much of it is corporate control. Makes me think of that Sunny Side Up song, Corporate Control. But so much of it is, mandated. Like I've worked at a radio station where, in order to do a very simple task, you had to get permission from somebody very far away. And they don't necessarily, they're not there in the building with you. And so any kind of, you can't, it's really hard for them to personalize it now because the powers that be are so far away, and they just kind of send down mandates and everybody just does what they're told.
Whoa. That's why I'm not famous. I'm blaming it on the corporate media. I'm just kidding. I like that we're getting away from that slowly.
And as we've seen from some of the investigative journalists that really try to go out and, report on war scenes and political mayhem and all of that stuff, they end up kidnapped, ransomed off, they end up murdered, detained. It's a real deal. Like, if you're out there trying to spread the truth in the world, you should expect to kind of watch your back, because there are people that don't want the truth to be known. They want people to be just as complacent as they possibly can. They want us to feel comfortable. And I prefer to be a little uncomfortable, because then I feel like at least I've kind of got my feet on the ground. And if your feet are on the ground, then, you can feel the earthquake. You can tell when the train's coming.
Yeah. Whoa. I think that may be the most political or anything we've gotten on this podcast. Because I can't say serious things because I don't know what I'm talking about. But I can't just spout off like, I read this on the internet today. But all those stories are made up for future job possibilities. That's all an alleged character.
Right.
How many more words can we say that make it sound real but not real?
This is all only a dream.
We made all of this up.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you for diving into that. We went from Garth Brooks to conspiracy theory. I love it.
Garth Brooks is a conspiracy.
I read some country artists or some country fans calling Garth Brooks the downfall of country music, and I was so angry. But then I kind of read which is something a lot of people don't do. I kind of read their side of it, and I was like, oh, I can see it. They're calling him the Justin Bieber of country music, and I was like, oh shit, maybe he was. I wasn't there, so I can't tell.
I don't know. I don't want to insult Garth Brooks.
That's total bullshit. I don't agree with that.
Okay.
I'm just saying.
I'm not a huge country fan, but I respect Garth Brooks. He's a talented artist, and anybody who can cover Leonard Skinner and Leonard Cohen in the same set. It's pretty cool.
Garth's my bro. Yeah. He signed my Bible.
Really?
You're dead serious. That's a weird story. Let's tell it. I was working at Pizza Hut, and I, at the time, was the kind of person that had his Bible everywhere, even delivering pizza. Mm-hmm. Because, you got to read while you're driving, delivering pizza.
Right.
And he came in. He was a.
See, I always thought you kept it because those papers were all really good joints.
No. I don't.
You're so red right now.
That's so much worse than saying Garth Brooks is bad. You took it to the next one. Well. Anyway, I asked him his religious beliefs and I had him sign my Bible. And at first he was like, that's kind of weird. He didn't say it like that. He was like, I don't know about all that. I was like, just do it. Except for I was awkward kid. Like, no, I think it's okay. It's my Bible. I would like you to, So he signed it. All things are possible. Your pal, Garth. So he's my pal. And probably 6 billion other people's pals.
If you remind him of that, that you'll be placed under security and on a special list.
If I happen to meet him, like, hey, remember that one time
I'm your pal. I'm your pal.
I hope I get the chance. Because I would love to get that kind of press.
That if you ever have to go online dating, that should be your headline. I'm pals with Garth Brooks.
Yeah, because somebody that was actually his friend would have that. I really kind of want an idea I recently had. I don't know how Tinder works. I never
I don't either, but I hear it's just for sex.
I don't know how Tinder
You're gonna
works.
look into it, aren't you?
Well, what I want to do, because I'm in a great relationship.
Yes.
But for the podcast, I would like to sign up for Tinder as a woman.
Right.
And just see, like, just the messages. Like,
can we make you up to look like a girl so it's still you?
I want to have like I want to have just normal pictures of me. Like I don't know that I'm using it wrong, and then like have people message me and act like I'm just trying to be their friend.
You're going to get a lot of like, cuz I am on a dating site. But you're going to get a lot of like hi, I drive a truck. Are you looking for quick sex? Like,
and I would reply with yes.
Yeah, right. See, I don't know where the conversation goes after that because it's usually my answer is no. So, I don't really know where that goes.
I think it connects to Facebook, so I would have to use a different one, or just make a female Facebook account. I don't know what I would have to do, but I'm going to look into that one day when I'm not lazy. And I tried. A couple years ago, I was sitting at home on Christmas Eve by myself, single, and I was like, I'm going to finally sign up for a Plenty of a Fish account. Plenty of a Fish?
Plenty of Fish. Yeah.
I'm going to sign up for all of them. But I didn't want to have pictures of me playing music. I felt that was douchey to use the only thing I have going for me to
you want to like
women.
Throw that out there later. Oh, and.
So then I didn't meet a single person because I was trying to be funny, but I'm not. And I was like, I think the ending quote was, just know that I'll never love you as much as I love Colby Calais. And so it was honest, but
oh, God.
I never got any action from Plenty of Fish. But I think it would be funny to read messages from just douchey trucker dudes. If you're driving a truck right now, I'm not talking about you.
Guys in general, I have to say, they've really got to up their game because, I mean, it's bad out there.
Yeah, I'm sure. Because some of it is really easy. I guess from what I'm told, if you try it 100 times and one works, I mean,
right.
Success.
Well, the law of averages, okay? when you're selling something, you have to get 10 no's to get to a yes. So I guess it works for these guys, that they're like, do you want quick sex now?
I think the original plan for Tinder was that. When I first heard about Tinder, it was in competition with Grindr, which... I
don't even know what that is.
Grindr,
really.
I guess...
I thought it was a picture thing.
Grindr, I obviously haven't used it, but from what I've heard, it's used for hookups between two men or two women. Oh. So, like, they got that great success first. Like,
okay.
Brilliant, because if that's what you're looking for,
yeah.
It should be as quick as you download an app, right? No? If that's what you're looking for, might as well just... I guess the picture that was painted of what Grindr was, from what I heard, was you log into it shows who's around, you tap, and they say if they're interested in you, then you meet and hook up.
Like within the vicinity?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it probably wouldn't work so well in Tulsa, but... and then that's what I heard Tinder was the first time. After that came out. I was like, well... So the first few times I heard my friends being like, oh, I met this person on Tinder and now we've been dating a couple months. And I was like, you used it wrong. So I don't know. I hope
you're supposed to hit it and quit it, man. Stop that.
Isn't that in the app? Like, isn't that in the terms?
Rules, the terms and service, like nothing beyond a second encounter.
Perfect. Garth Brooks conspiracy hookup apps. I love our episode, Drew. Where can musicians send you music? Tinder.com/
No. No. Go to you can get the release information at Unrequited Songs on Facebook, and then email me your MP3 and that document that you can get and scan in, or you can even digitally fill it out if you so choose. Since I'm not a radio station, I cover my butt, and I want to make sure that you own the material that you're submitting to me, and I will put you in my podcast if I like it, because I get to pick.
That's beautiful. And the first episode is Old Man.
Yeah.
Do you have favorite bands in Tulsa? Before you answer, I just read Bill Nye.
Yeah.
While I was here reading Reddit. He's answering questions, and somebody asked his favorite episode of The Science Guy. And he explained that if you were going to enter theater, that you would never say who your favorite person to work with was, because the word gets around. Knowing that, do you have favorite bands in Tulsa?
Well,
I was thinking if somebody asked me my favorite episodes, I would be like, this one, all the time.
Of course I do. I mean, I've already sort of like spouted my love of Billy Joe Winghead, just because that's the kind of music that I just really, really like and dig. But, yeah, I've got a ton of them that are my favorite.
In Tulsa?
Yeah, and I'm not going to list any of them.
Okay, don't do that. But call out a few bands that need to send you their music. There we go.
I need music from Sleepwalking Home.
Absolutely.
I need some music from All About a Bubble. I need some music from, let's see, who else needs to send me some stuff? Like everybody. Like, that's the other thing, is that when I look into my phone, if I ever lose my phone, I am so screwed, because I can just go down my phone and every musician, I haven't even deleted Wayne Coyne out of here, even though he's a bigot. Like, I've got everybody's phone number ever that played music in Oklahoma in the last 10 years in my phone. And, if I've interviewed you before, then obviously I like your stuff, or I wouldn't have,
I like that the only two bands you did list are previous guests on this podcast.
Exactly.
Excellent. All About a Bubble was Dust and Storm, episode 14, I think. And I don't know what Sleepwalking Home's episode is, but it's there.
Well, I knew that those two would be like a nice, safe way to go.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many good local bands and solo artists.
Does it have to be local?
No,
Awesome.
No, absolutely not. That's the other thing that I love about it. I actually hate the word local, because I feel like it is limiting. I feel like bands get stuck into a category of a local band, and it's bullshit. It's absolutely bullshit. The whole local thing in radio is so that they can sell this idea up the ladder and get approval to play these unreleased songs and unsigned artists, because unless you're signed, there's really no reason for the radio to play you. Like, that's not how it works. So, turning it into a local show, well, then that gives you a little bit of leeway to kind of break artists and tap into the local resources a little bit more. And, and part of it is goodwill and helping, further the arts in your community. I totally believe that. But part of it is just looking for another non-traditional revenue stream to sort of supplement your radio station with. And if you're given enough leeway to do that, and those who are so lucky if they're able to do that, and they should really take that opportunity to really try to break new songs and to break artists and give them opportunities to do better. And it will enrich the programming of that station. I mean, it really is a feasible business plan to do that. I mean, we did it at Shamrock Communications. We did it. I mean, we didn't eventually keep doing it with TulsaOriginalMusic.com, but I feel like if the business plan had been tweaked a little bit, that we would probably still be doing it. And, I feel like it's a totally viable thing to do. But I hate the label local. Okay, so I hate it.
Worldwide bands can send you songs.
Worldwide. Awesome. It doesn't matter where you're from. It doesn't, it doesn't matter what genre. It doesn't matter, if it doesn't have to be radio friendly or radio edited. I'm not going to play something that's just, FDFF, blah, blah, like I'm just not going to, because I just won't. You've got to have a little bit of creativity,
I just remembered you saying that. I remember playing a Battle of the Bands with my old band. We were called Tomorrow's Not Forever, which is a great name that's wasted. it was all deep. I was like, tomorrow isn't everything. We have our whole lives, because I was like 18, had hope and dreams. But I remember we were definitely a Christian band, and my bandmates. I mean, I was probably 18 or maybe 19, and they were 17, maybe 18, and so their parents drove them to the gig, and it was at, I think it's the other side, 71st and Lewis.
Oh, wow, yeah.
It was like a Monkey Productions Battle of the Bands that ended. Like, they didn't. It was a long time ago. And we had to sell a certain amount of tickets to be able to play. Gorilla. Yeah, Gorilla Productions. I hope you didn't own that. Now that I'm talking, I'm just kidding.
No, actually, I'll talk to you about that later.
Okay.
I've heard things. You have to be careful with who you give the rights to your music to.
Oh, I didn't. We were just playing their show.
Yeah.
Their Battle of the Bands thing.
If they videotape you.
Oh, goodness. They own me? Same thing with American Idol. Ooh.
Well, and I don't know what their release forms or whatever. But I'm not going to name any particular Great Ape production company, okay, in particular. But allegedly, somebody that I know played one of those, and their song ended up sold to another band that was somewhat well known. And,
wow.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Your story is crazier than mine. I was saying,
sorry.
I took this Christian band to play this show, and we were all excited, and I think we broke up that night. I think the drummer quit that night, which says a lot about the show. But we were all nice and, I don't know, naive, and we would never say the F word. Mm-hmm. But the guy that played right before us said it, and I think his song was fuckity fuck 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 fuck, and also fuck you. Right. I think that was the song. So I got to watch these, like, my bandmates freak out because their moms are freaking out, and like they held me responsible because I was the adult. I was like, oh my gosh, and people are drinking here. What have I done?
Oh, The Heroine. That's a band. They're from San Antonio. They need to send me music.
They'll be here. They'll have been here Saturday with Gooding and Nick Nose, which is, they were the last episode. I don't know if you heard it yet, but they cracked me up. I love those dudes. But yeah, so we'll have seen The Heroine when this releases.
Maybe.
And maybe we can get some of their songs on. I'm not going to try Unrequited Songs podcast. It's not unrequited. Well, thank you so much for coming over and joining me. I hope you had fun. I hope you have as much fun every time you get to record a podcast. I hope you just enjoy it. And
thanks for inspiring me.
I hope it takes off. And I'll link your Facebook page in the description of this podcast. So if you're listening, there'll be a link somewhere. It'll say facebook.com/unrequited songs. Unrequited songs. And thanks so much. Anything else you want to shout out to the millions and billions of listeners of this podcast?
Wow, you've got millions and billions?
Is that a real number?
Can I have about 2,000 of them?
Calling out you specifically by name.
It's about what I need.
Well, other than check out your podcast and send you songs. That's a really cool thing.
Send me your music if you feel like you are undiscovered or underappreciated or just unknown. Then send your music to me. Be sure to fill out the release form. It's on the notes at facebook.com/unrequited songs. And the link to the Podbean Unrequited Songs podcast is also on the Facebook page. So, just send an MP3 and the form to unrequitedsongs@gmail.com, and I'll do the best I can.
All right. I'm excited for you. And thank you guys for listening. Saying one more thing. What's exciting about a podcast is when you load it, it stays there. So when you load another one, your previous episode's still there. So a lot of times when we get new listeners here, they'll go back and get all the rest of them, which is so awesome for your show. Have you ever done something like that where, you could go or listen to previous episodes? Yeah,
well, like the interview that we played earlier. Those are floating around everywhere.
Floating in my hard drive.
Yeah. Because I interviewed a band a week for 5 or 6 years.
Wow. Who's your favorite to have interviewed?
Oh, wow.
I mean, maybe not favorite. Who is one that sticks out right now?
Oh, Sam and the Stylies.
Oh, goodness.
That was...
They're so fun, huh?
Yeah, they're absolutely fun. But I had all of them in one of the little tiny production rooms at the radio station, and that was a lot of fun, ton of fun. And anytime Jimmy Dean Adams, anytime Jimmy Dean Adams comes to get on the microphone with me, I have so much fun.
I agree. I think Jimmy's a listener, and Jimmy, we got to get something hooked up. He was the first episode, which is just me hanging out, seeing if I could record a podcast, and I released like a 15-minute like demo, and I only told a couple people. But before I actually like announced it, I got rid of it because we talked a lot of trash, and we just said some things that shouldn't be like before.
Kind of like this podcast.
Well, yes, exactly like this podcast. And like I had a guy listen, a friend of mine that won't listen now because of how offended he was by the test podcast, and I was kind of proud. I was like, yeah. And then I was sad because now I need him to download my podcast. But maybe one day, like in the future, maybe at the 100th episode, I feel comfortable releasing that first one.
Yeah, that the first one that I did for Unrequited Songs was sort of a test because I didn't really know how much memory and how much bandwidth I was going to use, and I wasn't really sure about all of the equipment and the programs I was using and all of that kind of stuff. It was sort of my first try at it. And so it's not very fancy and it's not very long and it's all just about Old Man. But in the future, it's going to be a longer show and have more music in it and a couple of interviews, not just one.
Yeah.
So, hopefully you'll submit your music and I can play your songs. And if you're able to come into my studio, then, I can interview you too. So.
Excellent. And I suggest listeners do check that out. Old Man is very interesting. We will say that. And thank you so much for coming. Again, I think that's the fourth time I've thanked you. I keep thinking about ending and then keep talking exactly like I'm doing now.
Well, the thing about digital editing is you can get rid of all that.
The thing about digital editing is I'm too lazy to do it. So, thanks again, and I'll see you soon. And thank you guys for listening. You guys are awesome, and have fun.